Welcome back to Comical Opinions. This is a review of Antarctica number 8 from Image Comics and Top Cow Studios. In this issue, Hannah tries desperately to try and figure out why there's another version of herself trapped in this machine for some unknown purpose, while her father, Jerome Curtis, and Dr. Gohel try and track down little Hannah down, hopefully before Dr. Simmons does. And hopefully that will work out, but looks like it's not going to once we get into it. But before we get started, please like, share, comment, subscribe. Let us know how we're doing. Your attention is much appreciated. And let's get into it. So this is Antarctica number 8 from Image Comics and Top Cow Studios, written by Simon Burks. Art and cover by Willie Roberts. Letters by Lyndon White. So what happened in the previous issue? Well, the 7-year-old Hannah escaped what she thought was her home, which turned out to be just basically a little lab area simulated to be her home, with the help of Dr. Gohel, who felt either some kind of guilt or remorse or some kind of internal conflict about Hannah being used for experimentation without her knowledge or will. Hannah managed to escape the little terrarium, if you want to call it that, and started running around the facility, the Antarctic facility, looking for some way to escape or where she was supposed to go, where she encounters another version of herself stuck in a stasis chamber, if you will. And while her father, Jerome Curtis, and Dr. Hell try and find Hannah before she's either captured or killed. In this issue, Hannah tries to break out the copy of herself. But before we get into the current state, we start off with a flashback to Dr. Gohel from several years before, where she was recruited by Simmons to be part of the experiment that's happening at the Antarctica station. And we learn that that there is a crack or a fissure in the Antarctic region that leads to other places, other planes, other parallel universes. And Dr. Gohel was hired to find a way to allow people to pass between the different universes with better equipment than the one they have. And so that sort of sets the foundation of who Dr. Gohel is, what she's there for, and why she's valuable to the team. So back to the present, which is really 15 years prior to the first arc, which we didn't realize until we read the preface page because it's not mentioned anywhere else in the series, which is part of the problem we'll get to in a minute. 7-year-old Hannah tries to break herself, or whatever copy or clone or version of herself is in the stasis chamber. She's unsuccessful. Unfortunately, Simmons gets to her before her father and Dr. Gohel find her. And because there is something about the Hannahs that come from all the alternate Earths and alternate universes, Dr. Simmons wants to try and force Hannah through the portal, which we know burns or is damaging to any human that tries to go through it. But because there's something special about Hannah, she wants to see what happens when she's pushed through. Fights ensue, all kinds of weapons are fired, but eventually, apparently, Simmons gets what she wants. But the outcome is very strange because the Hannah that gets pushed through the portal doesn't go all the way through, and then when she comes back out, she's trapped in some kind of crystal cocoon of some sort, which means something's very special about Hannah, and whatever her specialty, whatever makes her special, has something to do with the fissures that connect multiple Earths or multiple universes. So, what do we like about this issue? The central premise is imaginative and it's creative and it's unique and it's different. If you're looking for sort of more cerebral sci-fi, where we're talking about parallel Earths and connections to multiple people who have connections to what might be going on with nature, whatever caused the fissure that connects our Earths to each other. There's a lot of interesting concepts here. There's a lot of interesting ideas here. And so right from the beginning, we sort of like the series because it's doing something different. It's attacking the parallel Earth concept from a very sci-fi point of view, but also giving you different versions of different people who are trying to fight for their Earths for different reasons. For example, one of the Earths that they come in contact with early on is starving from overpopulation because there's 17 billion people on that planet. And so they're trying to invade other Earths to get their resources and help their people out. But that's just one of the many Earths that they encounter. And so there's a lot of room for building out a lore and mythology and a vast array of stories that are individual, but that all come together in this bigger scenario where our Earths are not alone, and now we can start thinking about Earths as almost like competing countries, if you will. So we like the central premise, we like the concept, and we like especially we like the father daughter relationship between Hannah and Jerome Curtis. So there's a lot of deep emotional beats there that are positive and that are heartfelt, and Simon Brooks really knows how to get at the heart of that father daughter relationship, even though it's kind of strange that he's dealing with multiple daughters from multiple Earths all at the same time because of some experiment. We're not quite sure what's going on there. What didn't we like about the issue? The problem that we noted from the very first issue all the way up through this one, which is number 8, Simon Brooks is not completing the story and he's not keeping it straight. You very much get the impression that Simon's got the story in his head. He can see it all laid out, but it's not translating to the page because you're getting bits and pieces. Parts of stories are being presented, but they don't flow together. They're not connected. And from the reader's point of view, who's coming into his story just from what's on the page without talking to him, some of the story doesn't make sense. For example, I mentioned this earlier in the review. I had no idea the second arc was taking place 15 years before the first arc. No clue. It wasn't mentioned in any of the previous preface pages, or if it was very glossed over very quickly. It doesn't explain how Jerome Curtis got to the fissure and brought in multiple Hannahs from multiple Earths. It doesn't explain any of that. So you're sort of like coming into the middle of scenarios that aren't fully formed and aren't fully realized, and you're trying to follow the story, but you can't because you keep pushing back and forth into different pieces, and you don't get a complete narrative. You don't get a linear flow of how things are going. And then the way the second arc started was which is where the first arc ended, which was an adult Hannah Curtis, who was 22 at the time, meeting an ally with her doppelganger saying, "Let's go." And we're into issue 8, which is most of the way through the second arc, and we have no idea what happened to the adult Hannah Curtis or what her current adventure plays into this adventure. And it's just jumbled. It's very jumbled. It's very disconnected, and it just doesn't flow. And it's very hard to get into. And so the lesson here is, especially if you're a comic creator, is don't make the reader do work to figure out your story. The story has to be clear. It has to be, well, I won't say easy to follow, but the path to following it should be a straight line. Don't make your reader do work to try and figure out what you're trying to say. That's exactly the opposite of what storytelling is supposed to be. And if I can't keep it straight, if what's on the page can't be kept straight, then the reader can't keep it straight. And if the reader can't keep it straight, they're just not going to hang in. I like the story. I like what the concepts of Simon Brooks is getting at here, but he's got to clear away the clutter, and he's got to get the through line straight and contiguous. You can't have bits and pieces just smashed together and try and sort it out. And especially if you're dealing with multiple Earths and multiple timelines, and we still don't even know what they're doing in the Antarctica, as far as, are they just studying the portal? Are they trying to accomplish something? What is Simmons trying to do, who's turning out to be the villain of this issue? It just, there's no information. You're just sort of following along, and stuff's coming at you, and there's no through line to it. There's no goal. The journey just feels like stops and starts in bits and pieces. It just doesn't make any sense. Okay, a word about the art. How's the art? Willie Roberts' art is great. This is the best we've seen from him. This is the best we've seen on any of the series we've seen from him previously, especially when Simon Brooks and Willie Roberts were publishing most of their work through Blue Fox Comics, which is their smaller independent publisher. Looks fantastic. The one area where I'll be a little picky about that is there's a flashback to when Simmons first meets Gohel when she's in college, and then we flash forward to their present, which is 15 years in the past, where Gohel is now a member of the team. Simmons looks like she's about 30 years older. I don't know how she aged 30 years in the time span of 6, but it's strange. And we've seen this in the past, where sometimes the flow between the past and the present, Willie Roberts just kind of like loses a track of how to gracefully out of age somebody that's appropriate for the amount of time skips the Burks goes through. But that's the one nitpick. Everything else looks great. If you want a great looking sci-fi comic, this is a good one, and especially because it looks grounded, it looks realistic, and I'm sure there's some thought process to say, can we adapt this into a television show or a film or something like that? This pretty much it gives you a very high quality layout of what that would look like, which was great. So final comments. What do we think about Antarctica #8? The ideas are there, the concepts are there. There's a diamond in the rough, but there's a lot of rough. Simon Burks has got to nail down keeping a straight through, clear through line and plot and direction. Has to stop leaving out so much information, especially when he's jumping around in time and in multiple universes with multiple characters who are doppelgangers of each other. That's a lot of confusion. You have to put in the effort to make it straight, and it's right now it's not straight. And it's very. And if somebody was given this comic to be like, I have no idea what's going on, and that's not where you want to be. You can be complex, but never at the cost of clarity. So therefore, we're going to give Antarctica #8 from Image Comics and Top Cow Studios a 6.5 out of 10. And that's mostly for the writing execution, not for the art. So I hope you enjoyed this review. But before you leave, please like, share, comment, subscribe to Comical Opinions. This is Gabe Hernandez, your publisher in EIC. Thank you very much, and you have a great day.